Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Hello, colleagues. Good afternoon. It's been very interesting, all our conversations this afternoon talking about First Amendment rights and free speech. I want to say I highly respect the bill's sponsor, Representative Wade, and I recognize that he's made many edits to this bill in response to feedback. However, House Bill 1084 remains highly problematic, and I am speaking in opposition to this bill. I especially find it troubling and ironic and frustrating that this body slipped in a vote yesterday in House Bill 517 that doubles the $100 million diverted from the general fund annually in the form of tax credit for private schools to $200 million in 5 years. These private schools will not be held accountable to these laws we've been talking about today, while we add administrative burdens, unnecessary burdens, on our public school teachers and leadership. I've been listening to teachers and students in our community, in my community especially. Let teachers teach and let students learn. Hands off our education. Trust our teachers. Over 200 thoughtful, energetic, and democracy-loving young people from my community gathered here at Liberty Plaza last week. I share their concerns that this bill will rob young people of an inclusive education and suppress speech about race and racism. Classroom censorship bills about race and racism, like House Bill 1084, are at the cross-section of racial justice and the First Amendment. Our students have, and I think we've been talking about this today, a First Amendment right to hear accurate information in our schools. I'm especially concerned about how this bill could affect crucial conversations between students and teachers about our recent history and current events. I remember watching the budget appropriations hearings, and Senator Blake Tillery made a point to the USG president: we need to teach our students to be critical thinkers. If this law is passed, will our teachers shy away from asking hard questions that they know will challenge their students? In referring to lines 38 and 39 in the bill, and this is something I asked in committee, that's where it says students shouldn't feel anguish or psychological distress because of their race. Of course we agreed. No teacher should ever teach that. However, I am concerned that where a student, upon learning some of our hard history, such as Rosa Parks and the bus boycott, as Representative Wade talked about with his daughter, lynchings of blacks in the Jim Crow South, or internment of Japanese Americans during World War II, that a student may feel anguish or psychological distress because they're human and have empathy and they have emotions. And most people, those of us in this room, and would be like Representative Wade and have that hard conversation with their children about discrimination in America. But a family member who holds prejudices may resent their child feeling those emotions and allege that the teacher made the child feel that way. How does the teacher defend himself or herself? I'm concerned that this law may create an atmosphere or lead to an atmosphere of distrust. Do we need to get body cameras on all our teachers to defend themselves? And along the same line, how do we prevent multiple inaccurate allegations that an educator has taught a prohibited concept, particularly those that teach history, economics, or other subjects within the social sciences that cover race, race inequities, discriminatory laws and policies, and other topics that are controversial? And how do we monitor the effects on teacher retention? I'm thinking of a cautionary tale of a teacher, Matthew Hahn, a teacher who's white from Kingsport, Tennessee, with 16 years experience, who in his contemporary issues class exposed his students to the concept of white privilege, and he was fired for it. During the school board hearing, several of his former students came to speak upon his behalf, and one, Christian Thomas, said, I quote, "Before meeting Hahn, I don't know if I could have been the type of guy to listen to other people's arguments or see from their point of view." And let's listen to the voices of students like Katie Gunther, one of the Decatur students who spoke at the rally. If this bill passes, teachers and students would live in fear of saying the wrong things, stymieing free thought and new ideas. The kind of discussion that prepares us for the real world by learning about our past and our present and each other just wouldn't exist in Georgia. All the while, students who will suffer the most from these bills would be trapped in public schools that refuse to teach them anything but a whitewashed history. So Katie asks us, what kind of state do we live in? What kind of state do we want to live in? She says 1084 scares the next generation of thinkers from Georgia. I love this state and I want to live here freely just as I would anywhere else. I see my future in Georgia. I live in a state that has a diversity of thought and people, where my neighbor looks and feels differently from me, and that's okay. I want myself and every student in Georgia to feel safe whenever they walk into any school of any kind. Places of education should be safe spaces for thought and speech. I agree with you, Katie, and colleagues, I hope you do too. I hope that we can vote no on this bill and let teachers teach and students learn. Our kids should learn about what we've done right and wrong in our history so they can celebrate the progress we've made and continue making it in the future. We can talk about race and racism here in Georgia. We can teach our children to love America and to love the truth. Mr. Speaker, I yield the well.